Here are the weirdest and most hilarious political scandals. Number 8. Softballs down the middle. Back in 2005, when President George W. Bush was still in charge, there was a bit of a controversy with a reporter named Geoff Gannon, although that wasn't actually this dude's real name because his actual name is James Dale Guckert. Up until that point, there wasn't anything particularly odd about him. Gannon got daily press passes to the White House and had been a regular for over 2 years, even when his employer, an outlet called Talon News, had been rejected by the Senate in 2004 for not being a legitimate media outlet. What made other reporters suspicious was a particular question Gannon had asked Bush about how he would handle his adversaries. It was an unusually easy question, even for right-wing supporters, so alarms immediately went off. It was thought that he had been hired directly by the White House to make things a bit easier for the president. But as other reporters did some background work on him, they found a pretty interesting past. Geoff Gannon had never been a journalist before working for Talon News. In fact, he had been a male prostitute named Scripper for the longest time before suddenly getting a clean pass and new name and a press pass. When all this became public, Gannon refused to specifically address them, but admitted that he had made mistakes in his past. The White House denied it all, but it does make you wonder when and where fake news really began. Number 7. Nah, I don't know that thought. Wilbur Mills was the chairman of the U.S. House Committee on Ways and Means back in 1974. Basically, it's the chief tax writing committee of the U.S. House of Representatives, and this supposedly made Mills one of the most powerful men back then. Anyways, Mills was stopped by police October 9, 1974, because he was driving with his headlights off. He was pretty much driving wasted, and definitely not driving alone. His passenger was a stripper named Fanny Fox, aka the Argentine Firecracker. Hey, that sounds like a nickname someone has to live up to. Well, Fox tried to escape police by leaping from the car when the police pulled them over. Okay, this is a start. She then jumped into basically a lake nearby to try to escape the police. Alright, now this story is getting better. She was, let's just say, retrieved and obviously arrested. Any sort of affair was denied at the time, and despite this story hitting the news, Mills was re-elected soon after. Not a month had passed when Mills was spotted in a burlesque house where Fox was performing that night. Yeah, he happened to just be there while she was performing. Right. Come on, dude. This lady's our side chick. It would have dissolved into nothing, as many small scandals in Washington tend to do, if it weren't for the press conference Mills gave later. Not only was he still drunk, but he also gave the conference from a stripper's dressing room. Whose dressing room? You guessed right, the dressing room of Fanny Fox. Seriously, I can't make up how dumb people are. Number 6. Bruh, say it was a dude. Once upon a time, there were 2 Republican lawmakers who were colleagues in Michigan. Todd Courser and Cindy Gamrat met long before they became lawmakers, but no one can really be sure when their affair started. It became public when the recording of a call between Courser and an aide was leaked to the press back in 2015. The aide was, of course, fired soon after. In the recording, Courser planned to circulate an email that contained a rumor about himself. It was going to state that he had engaged several times in sex with a male prostitute. This way, any rumors regarding his very real affair with Gamrat were going to be disregarded. Holy shite! This is actually a damn good plan. Courser was supposedly a family man, as he had a wife and kids. He had conservative credentials, so the email wasn't going to be believed. What he never expected was for his aide to turn on him and leak the convo. Et tu, Brute? Eventually, lawmakers started an investigation into their use of public funds to cover up their affair. A month later, the state legislature debated whether both Courser and Gamrat should be forced out. Courser announced his resignation and escorted out of the House office building by 3 red-coated sergeant-in-arms. Number 5. You don't like leather? Some people like vanilla, some people like chocolate. Apparently, Jack Ryan's ex-wife, actress Jeri Ryan, wasn't exactly into the same thing as him. Jack Ryan was the candidate running against Barack Obama in the Illinois state race back in 2004. Here's an interesting fact. Ryan's staff had Justin Warfel, a campaign worker, follow Obama throughout the day and record everything he did in public on videotape before the race. But the crazy stunt wasn't what did him in. He withdrew from the race when some of the sealed documents relating to his divorce became public. In the unsealed divorce documents, Jerry claimed that on several occasions, Jack would plan what he called, quote, romantic getaways for them, only to arrive at a sex club. I mean, I wouldn't call that kind of an outing exactly romantic. She alleged that Ryan had wanted her to perform sex acts with him in public in sex clubs in New York City, New Orleans, and Paris, although no sex actually occurred. She said that she cried on one occasion when she saw cages and whips when they walked into a club. On another occasion, she was asked to have sex in front of other people or to have sex in public areas while blindfolded. Yeah, these are the type of things you definitely need to give someone a heads up about. Number 4. Really, it's not that dirty. Thomas Blanton was a congressman from Texas who was censured for inappropriate language. Yeah, you heard that right. We all know language evolves, and many words that were outrageous back then are pretty much normal by now, but this is still a one-of-a-kind story. In 1921, Blanton put into the Congressional Record a letter written as a response to the conflict between the union and non-union workers within the printing industry. The letter itself wasn't really that long, but it contained at least 32 obscene words. Blanton was actually expelled from Congress after his fellow congressmen pointed out that his language was, quote, unspeakable, vile, foul, filthy, profane, blasphemous, and obscene. To defend himself, Blanton said those words were the only ones he could use to express the bitterness felt by union printers towards their non-union counterparts. However, years later, he was re-elected to Congress. Can you guys imagine being kicked out of Congress after just saying a few curse words? Number 3. Here, piggy piggy. It's difficult to picture a prime minister doing fratty rituals and being generally awkward like the dudes you see in Hollywood portray in their movies. But this is exactly the case of former British Prime Minister David Cameron. Back in 2015, a book was published which was Cameron's unauthorized biography written by Michael Ashcroft and Isabel Oakeshott. In their book, they revealed how a young David Cameron in his Oxford years had gone through an initiation ceremony with the very exclusive Piers Gaveston Society. This society is a men's-only dining club at the University of Oxford. According to one of the people there, Cameron put let's just call it a part of his anatomy into a dead pig's mouth for the initiation, among other things. The authors of the book claim that as they were unable to retrieve any evidence of the anecdote as they merely reported it as it was recounted to them. Supposedly, there was a photograph of the event, but it was never found or posted. Even when there was no proof that the story actually happened, it was certainly a fun thing to talk about in the media. Cameron didn't respond to this, but several close friends were outraged. Hey, brush it off. It didn't happen, is what I say. That and trash all the photos. Number 2. Wide stance. Larry Craig was a senator from Idaho who apparently liked to have fun times at the airport. Craig was one of those Republicans who had dedicated their careers to promote anti-gay laws and policies, who several times opposed same-sex marriage and domestic partnership benefits. Well, turns out, this very much not gay senator was arrested after he went into a men's restroom at the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport and solicited gay sex to a dude in the next stall. However, unfortunately for him, and great for us, it was a police officer undercover in the bathroom stall next to him. Local police set up an undercover operation after several people reported having heard weird noises coming out from the stalls. The things our officers have to do. According to the officer, Craig went into the stall next to his and solicited sex in the common code for these situations. Craig tapped his right foot twice and then proceeded to touch the officer's foot with his foot, nudging him. Then the senator proceeded to swipe his hand under the stall several times. The officer flashed his badge under the stall, and it was game over. At first, Craig tried to say that he had, quote, a wide stance and that he was trying to pick up a piece of paper, but then realized how ridiculous his explanation was and followed the officer to the station. He pledged guilty to lewd conduct, but later denied it all. Of course, his career was over after this incident. Number 1. Mr. Wiener. This story is so ridiculous, I still can't believe that it's real. Anthony Weiner was a former Democratic congressman involved in several sexting scandals that began in 2011 and ended, along with his career, in 2016. The first scandal, dubbed Weinergate by the press, happened in 2011. Weiner had posted several sexually suggestive pictures online and had sent them to women on Twitter. I mean, everyone sent a few dick pics here and there, right? Well, it's a problem when your wife is Huma Abedin, a longtime personal aide to Hillary Clinton. Of course, Weiner denied these claims at first, but later came clean and admitted that he had sent pictures to several other women. Soon after the start of the scandal, he resigned from Congress. Okay, so everyone had the jokes with his last name being Weiner and him sending dick pics and whatever. Haha. Weiner showing his wiener, blah blah, and all that blows over. But 2 years later, he came back into politics. But because he's a complete moron, and because apparently his wife wasn't doing her job, he sent even more dick pics to another woman, even as he was racing for the mayor of New York City. Seriously, what sort of cognitive processes were going on in his brain? If any, actually, that made him decide to do the same thing that ruined his career the first time. Can things actually get worse? Oh wait, it can! In 2016, the FBI began investigating Weiner again. Apparently, he had been sexting a 15-year-old girl for quite a while. He faced trial and he confessed to lewd behavior and immorality. Come on, dude! Just stop living life! I still can't believe how dumb this dude is. After the last scandal, Weiner's wife, Huma Abedin, finally divorced him. Kudos to her. The FBI seized several electronic devices from the Weiner house, including a laptop that contained many compromising emails. This was actually part of the email scandals Clinton was involved in through all her presidential campaign. Here's what's next. Theodore Roosevelt coined the foreign policy phrase, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." He built up the U.S. military to keep that promise, and U.S. presidents have been following his lead ever since. Until now, President Trump does not speak softly